Good morning, everybody. Good morning,
Hello.
Habiba. Good to
Hello.
see you.
Good to see you too, always.
Oh, it's
Hello.
so
Hello.
fun. I'm so excited. Hello, honey. So
Hello.
excited. And Lenore, I'm so glad you're joining us, even though you are driving. So thank you. Thank you for joining us and taking us with you on your drive. Okay, so I have, I am so excited about today's conversation because I I get my downloads. I get what I'm supposed to talk about right before class. So it just gets me so excited. It comes usually in the shower or when I'm getting ready, and oh my gosh, I was like, I get to share this. This is so amazing. So welcome to the Happy Dream Creators Workshop, and I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody so we can Oh, so many beautiful faces. Daisy, Lynn, Kathy, Debbie, fun. All right. And you have joined us for the first time, and I want to ask you to pronounce your name for me. I'm asking you, let's see, to unmute yourself. Yes. Can you tell me how to pronounce your name, please? It's Apeajk. I've unmuted you. Can you share how to pronounce your name? Okay, you maybe you're not hearing me. All right, so let's go ahead. And I am thrilled. So today is March the 3rd, 2021, and we're just going to go on a journey. So I am going to ask you to really keep your mind wide open. Check the voice in your head that is going to say, this doesn't make sense, this is BS, this is not possible. A voice that is going to want to make sure that you don't receive what is available for you today. Now, not everything that I share is going to make 100% complete sense to you, but it in the big scheme of things, there is so much truth inside of this, and everybody takes what resonates and leaves what doesn't. And I was testing a microphone earlier, and I couldn't get it to work. So tell me if can you hear me? Let's see who's on video. If you're on video and you can hear me okay, shake your head, please. That you can hear me okay. Excellent. Perfect. And I had somebody who said to me that when we have some audio issues is usually when people unmute themselves, that in the unmuting, there seems to be a little bit of a sound dip. So we will work through that. And I am going to be getting a really good microphone this week. All right, let's get ready for a journey. I am going to take you to before time began. We are going to go to far outside of the realm of the 3D world, and we're going to go beyond. And here's how we're going to start that. So I want you to imagine that this billboard, this whatever dry erase board, this board represents all that God is. But because our human minds sometimes have a hard time imagining that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a really big circle, and then I'm going to write God inside of that. Now, if the word God is not comfortable for you, change it. Call it creator, call it infinity, call it source, call it whatever makes you feel comfortable so that you can receive the information that is possible for you. So this massive space, I am going to call that God, source, all that is. So if we let ourselves, let me change this view. I don't know if this makes it a little easier to see the whole thing. So if you're comfortable that this whole thing is God, source, spirit, I'll put the word God down here, source. If this is all that is possible, all that creator is, when source began, and there's really no beginning to source. There's no beginning, there's no end. So we have to wrap our mind around concepts that are beyond our linear thinking. We got to go out of the egoic box and allow ourselves to recognize that all that is has always been, always will be. This is why it's infinite, but it never had a beginning and it cannot possibly have an end. This is why God is, just is. So inside of this isness, all that is possible can be created. And the creator, being this energy that is infinite, had a desire. Not because it's there's something lacking, but it's creating. And in creativity, you create. There's nothing else to do but create. And this is what makes it infinite, because more gets created, more gets created, more gets created. So in this creation, the source of all that is decides that it wants to have what in the Course in Miracles is called a son, one daughter, one child, one being that it can give and receive love to. This infinite creative source that creates everything desires a receiver. And we are each the soul, the oversoul, the one essence that gets to experience. And this is what's so amazing. We get to experience the creator. The creator experiences us. Through all that we do, we get to experience the creator through the love of all that we do. So it's a beautiful opportunity for us to really be in awareness that that which created us is the creator experiencing life through us. This is why Jesus said, I and the Father are one. This is why all that is oneness. Okay, so for the purpose of simplicity, and just because I'm visual, I'm going to share this visual that came to me in the shower. So if all of this is the source, and the source creates us to experience, to have this beautiful relationship, a holy relationship, then imagine that what we are is a circle inside of the all that isness. So we're going to call that our soul. So we are as soul, the Son of God. And I'm only going to use the word son because it's what the Course in Miracles uses. So I want to stay consistent with the Course. So as you read the Course, you're receiving what I'm attempting to share here in a much more simple way. So the creative source creates an experience of us, non-physical. We're all pure energy. So this is just imagined in the mind. Like when we dream at night and we have horses and cats and people and rain and stuff in our head, it's not, we imagine it, even though it's not real. We don't put horses in our head at night to have a dream about horses. We imagine. So the creative source created us in its image and imagined us inside of itself so that we could experience one another. So God creates in its image what can then create in its image. That means that the creative source, when it created us to create. Isn't that fun? We have creative powers too. So what did we as the sonship create? Well, we created an experience of separation. I wonder what it's like to be something other than what I am. So we decide to enter into the imagination of separation. And for the purpose of simplification, because this is something that happens in the universe, I mean, this is about the whole universe, but we're going to focus just on this particular world, the 3D world, planet Earth, human. So we're going to keep it local. So in the experience of separation, I as a soul must make a decision. This is where we use our mental body. So the separation comes from the mind, in the mind. And those of you who study understand the different bodies that we have. We have a soul body, we have a mental body. And to have an experience of separation, we make a decision. So in our mind, we create a veil of separation between who we are and how God created us. And inside of that veil of separation, we begin to imagine what it's like to live as separate beings. So we project the world that we see. So this physical world, according to the Course in Miracles, is created to separate from God. So we create planet Earth. On planet Earth, we then come and have an experience of separation. So we become, we populate the planet. These are our little people. So the planet gets filled with people who are playing the game of being separate from God because mind has decided to do that. And there is another element to that, which is the use of our emotional body. So the emotional body is nothing more than the love of God, which is what maintains infinity, the love of God that extends and sends love into us. We then take it, and what we do is we begin to block it. We begin to put a block to the energy that God is, and we don't let it be in motion. So we create the emotional body to stop through the process of separation, the energy of love that God is, because that's all it is, that is, and the sun, we are bringers of love and light to the planet. We use our mind and allow a little bit of love to trickle in, a little bit, not that much, because we use the emotional body to not let the love of God be in motion. We block it. And we're going to get to how we do that in a minute. So when we enter the planet and we're totally, completely as little babies in alignment with God creates us, we are souls that get to create. I wonder what it's like to be a human. I wonder what it's like to have the experience of separation. So we come into the planet. As you all know, I love my little magnet people. So as bringers of love and light, babies come to the planet and they bring love and light. So since the beginning, humanity is born out of a desire to experience separation so that we can experience what God knows is true about the love that it shares with us as a soul. We want to have a physical experience of it. We want to feel, touch. We want to use the senses to hug and kiss and see and taste and have an experience, which you cannot when you're pure non-physical. There are different experiences because there are senses beyond the five senses there. We know of the sixth sense, but there's more beyond that. So the five senses is a finite experience of all that is. So in all that is infinite, we come to one planet. And from all of the information that I've received, all of the guides that I listen to, there is only one planet at a time that goes through the process that humanity is in the process of right now. Many planets go through this process, but only one goes through what we're going through. And I'm going to talk about that again in a little bit, because we need to understand why the whole universe is supporting the ascension process that we're going through. So when we enter the planet as little children, bringers of love and light, our mind gets conditioned into believing by our well-meaning parents. They give us a name, they give us an ethnicity, the government gives us a social security number, the church tells us if we're, naughty or nice, kind of like Santa Claus. Our mind begins to be trained into believing that we really are separate, and this is what makes you different from everybody else. So the love and light that we are begins to get a little darker. We begin to condense. We begin to move into the density. So let me put a bunch of little green people here. So the yellow turns into green. And as we enter into this planet and we begin to create an idea about who we are, we literally surround ourselves with another veil. So there's the illusion in the mind that I'm separate from God. And then there's the identification that begins to form the creation of our ego mind, where I surround myself with an idea of who I am, which is why in this planet of 8 billion people, we can feel so alone, because we have an idea in our mind that is supported because we agree. in separation, we agree in specialness. You know, you're part of my family. It's a little bigger circle. You're part of this community. It's a little bigger circle. But ultimately, your identity, my identity, is a domain of our ego. And that causes us to feel separate from everybody else. And I need to protect me. When we shift from being the love and light that comes into the world, get programmed by our parents into taking on our identification, when we make the switch to, I need to take care of me because I can't trust any of you people, and that typically happens at a very young age. By the age of 8, by the age, for many, by the age of 2, we've already decided we can't trust these adults that are taking care of us, because energetically, we can feel, those of you who are familiar with this chart, we can feel that we are operating in the love and light realm, and they are operating in the ego realm, where they're demanding, they get angry with us. There's aggression. There's a lot of disappointment. Boy, when your parents get disappointed at you, you can be a baby. The frequency of this energy and the frequency of this energy are too far apart. So you may not have as a child the language to say, okay, you people forgot that you're supposed to be love and light. What we feel is that I can't be me. These people are sucking my energy. So we begin to pull it back as a form of self-protection, only because we have two voices in our mind. The voice of our intuition that says, oh, wow, these people can take all of our light. So let's just pull it back a little bit and be kind to these humans who forgot that I came here in peace. I came here with a white flag. I came here to bring love and light. So intuition says, okay, just kind of pull back a little bit. And the ego voice says, well, if we're pulling back, it's because we're in danger. We need to protect ourselves from those people that are being aggressive, that are disappointed in who we are. And that disconnect from the love and light extending to beginning the process of protecting causes us to get pretty dark. We begin to densify ourselves into the illusion of being totally separate, all alone, and I need to protect me. So we shift and we move into lots of density. And in the chat, if you have any comments or questions, please post them in the chat and I'll check in there so that I can make sure I address things, but I don't want to stop the flow for right now because it's just coming through me. All right, I don't know what I'm saying. This is not rehearsed, so let me keep flowing. So anyway, so on this planet, we chose to experience separation, but we chose to experience it knowing that we're love and light. Over millennia, thousands of years, we have little by little been conditioned into believing that we're separate from one another. And through that process of separation, lots of illusions have been created. The illusion that others have more power than we do. Well, we all came from the same one source. We're all one sun, one oversoul. How can anybody have more power than anybody else? We came from the light, the goodness, the allness, the isness that God is infinite well-being. It's infinite love. It's infinite peace. It's infinite equality, because everything that it creates is made in its image. So our mind gets conditioned with a lot of things that are not true. We get conditioned into believing that there's authority outside of us. It starts with mother, father. Then it goes to the preacher, then the teacher, then the government, then the medical establishment, and the food establishment that tells us how we should be eating, the pyramid of what's okay. Our mind gets little by little conditioned to believe that we are all alone, and to survive, we need to listen to these other people. And because that is ingrained in our mind, we don't really question it, not really. What happens is that those who really understand what's happening to the mind, and they begin, because they're so dense, they begin to move down to the realm of, and by the way, if you're new, this chart comes from the book, Power versus Force, written by Dr. David Hawkins. The lowest possible frequency that we can operate from is called evil. evil means not that there is a devil out there. Evil means wrong use of mind, according to the Course in Miracles. The wrong use of mind, if you look at the word evil, it's live backwards. So when we're not living fully as the soul that we are, we become evil. That means it's all about me, selfishness, greed. We don't like anything that's alive because we are disconnected inside, which is dead inside. We're numb inside to what is the life of God within us. So when we descend into the lowest possible potential of our forgetfulness, our experience of separation, we get pretty evil. And that's where I use the little red people. So somewhere in the world, there is a very tiny fraction of people who go that low, and a whole bunch of us, the majority of us, about 99% of us, if not more, that just get really dark and dense. We operate at the realm of an ego pride, me, it's all about me. And when it's all about me, we get pretty demanding. And when we're very demanding, we operate in aggression and hate. And inside of that comes everything from grief, regret, anxiety, fear, jealousy, revenge, all of those really ugly energies. So what does that have to do with what's going on this planet right now? Is that many of us have begun the process of shifting back into the light. We are doing the work of questioning who are we really? So the journey requires that we do work in 3 stages. So I'm gonna share these. So you may want to write these down, because I might write it here. The first stage of work that we have to do is all about me. We have to go inside. We got to get to know who we are. This is the work that is done when we experience that dark night of the soul. So we have to take this one, and it's the work of I. Who am I? Who am I in this world? And the work begins with questioning, why am I angry all the time? Why am I scared all the time? Why do I feel anxiety? Why am I upset with grandmother? Why do I carry this hate towards, father? I, all about me. Why? Because we have to first get to know what's in here. And to get to know what's in here is to begin to recognize the thoughts that we're having. Now, at this stage, we don't know that we're one with God. We might be taught that, but we don't really believe it fully, and we certainly don't feel it, because we get disconnected from feeling the truth of who we are. Because when we decide to have an emotional experience, we begin to block the energy of love. It doesn't get to be in motion. It gets to be in suppression. So the I work is to turn my darkened egoic self, come to know, how did I get to be so dense? How did I get to be so selfish and so greedy and so all about me? How did I become so conditional with my love? Because it's not really who we are. And we begin the process little by little to experience lightening up. Not fully, but we're in the process of lightening up. So we walk around with our awareness that we have human density, that we have pain and suffering, and we begin to feel that there's something inside of us calling us into expansion, calling us into lightening up, calling us into love. So it's a moment, it's a time when we are half green and half blue, half in the world and half experiencing that there could be more to us, but not quite sure what it is. We go to therapy, we seek counseling. Maybe we're not necessarily feeling that there's something wrong with us, but we know we deserve more. So we might go the self-help route. We want to learn how to attract more money. The law of attraction becomes very attractive to us. We want more because we know we deserve more. But it is not until we really examine why do we think so little of us that we can begin to accept the more of who we are. So this journey can take quite a while. It's lifetimes, people, because each lifetime we are born into the density that we leave at. So the light beings that are Doesn't take us long to come down. And humanity has been operating below the line for a very long time. So we begin to lighten up. When we begin to lighten up enough that we're not half blue, half green, that we begin to recognize, not only did this happen to me, this happened to everybody else. Everybody else fell under the illusion of separation, are believing those who control us, who tell us the way things should be, those who indoctrinate us. And when we get really solidly entrenched in more of our truth, which is we make a shift, we go from having the ego pride that demands that other people change for us to be okay, we shift into the next level. The next level is that in between place. When we go there, we can only go with the courage that is required to have the willingness to begin to see everything as neutral. That means I'm not going to pass judgment on other people. That's when we earn our greenness. So we begin to come outside of the realm that the world operates from. We begin to take a step out and we enter into the realm of what I'm going to call that emotional realm. We move out of the density of the physical realm, that I'm just this body that's experiencing suffering, and I move into the lighter aspect that I'm going to call the emotional realm, because we're beginning to get our light, our love back into motion. We go into neutral. We go into the neutral place that we're not judging what other people are doing. Well, let me just say we're learning not to judge what other people are doing, because we're recognizing that we have a lot of love and we can't feel the love that we are if we don't put it back into motion. So how do you do that? You move into the second place, the second stage of this journey, and now you're doing the work of others. I'm going to call it we. So the first work is I have to do work of me. Then the second part of the journey is we have to do the work with others. This is where we begin to look at others and accept them where they are. Why? Because none of us, when we are in the dream, understand that we've been programmed, that our mind got programmed. So we begin the process of what the Course in Miracles wants us to understand is begin to accept and forgive. All of us came in by choice. Not one of us is a victim to the world that we see, not one of us, because the world that we see is an imaginary world. It is created in our mind and projected outwardly. And we're going to read from the Course so you hear what the Course has to say about that. When we can begin to step outside of our own little mental idea of self and begin to look at others, from me, from I, from self, to others, to we. How are we operating in this world? What's going on here? When we can begin to look at others and see them as divine beings doing the best that they can with what they've got, we begin to soften. We begin to enter into the realm of harmony. And to be able to start moving into harmony, we've got to operate with optimism, with hope, with trust. We begin to cultivate a trust that there is another way, that the way the world taught us of making money and taking care of yourself and going into more debt and having the biggest house and competing with your neighbors and trying to keep up with the Joneses. I actually used to have neighbors that last name was Joneses. And when they remodeled their kitchen, I was like, I got to do the same thing. So we were literally keeping up with the Joneses. So when we operate inside of that comparison, and it's all about me, I got to keep up with the Joneses. I've got to look good. I'm the one who's hurting. I'm the victim here, or I'm the bully and I'm going to take what I want from you. In this world of full on greed and separation and selfishness, we do horrendous things to each other. Fortunately, there's a lot of people in the world that are operating at a lighter frequency, and they're calling us into expansion. They write books. We share, we teach. We've had people like Jesus, like Buddha, like Lao Tzu, like Confucius. We've had, who wasn't confused. We've had people like Eckhart Tolle. We have people, Marianne Williamson, lots of people, Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi. The list is very, very long, who are attempting to teach us how they moved, how they shifted from inside of all about me to beginning to see our oneness with others. Hinduism has been teaching that for 4,000 years, Buddhism for almost as many. So when we can begin to see that everybody's under the same illusion, and we begin to be kinder and gentler and more compassionate, we begin to soften. The energy of love begins to be put back into motion. We are no longer takers as we were inside of the illusion of separation. We become givers. We become sharers. We realize that there is a beautiful, beautiful process in being kind that feels good. So where in the illusion of separation, it doesn't feel good to be here because everybody's trying to get a piece of us. Love is conditional. We have to meet a certain criteria. Some authority sets up some kind of a pyramid that we've got to climb and achieve before they approve of us, before we get to be okay. Now, all of this is happening because we chose from a soul level to experience, use our mind to think ourselves into separation and create the disconnection that is this planet. So in this planet, beautiful planet is inside the mind of God, just as we are inside of the all that isness. Planet is pure consciousness, pure energy. We are pure consciousness, pure energy. As we begin to become the change that we want to see in the world, it's because we're unplugging from the matrix of separation, not buying into this idea of competition and winners and losers. We are moving into that outer circle. We're coming out into allowing the emotion and emotional body to lighten up as well. The energy of love gets put into motion. We begin to be more kind and compassionate. Then we get to go to the next level. This next level is that if we think this feels good to be kinder and gentler, the next level is to come back out, further out. We do the I work. We realize there's no separate me. We do the work with others. We realize others are here as mirrors of who I am, and they are nothing more than partners in the game of separation. But it doesn't mean that they're not souls just like me. Then when we get really clear about that, we are operating in acceptance and forgiveness, because we all play the game. That's what we do. This is the planet of divine hide and seek. We were hiding. We begin the process of seeking. Then we arrive at the truth of who we are. We do the work here. Is the work of God. This is the work of accepting I am that I am. And so is everybody else. Because once we're not buying into my small ego mind and caught up in the idea of who I think I am, we move into feeling what I am and everybody else is. We're all divine beings having this human experience. Then we go to the, well, if we're all divine beings having a human experience, then aren't I that divine essence? If I am that, because that is what I am, because there's only that, why am I not then playing in this world from a place of love, from a place of true oneness? And these are the teachers like Jesus who came into the world to teach us another way. But what happens when these bright, beautiful beings come into the planet to teach? Well, the first thing that happens is that we ridicule their ideas because they're too foreign. What? You're telling me to not be my greedy, selfish little self? Those who are willing to listen, they have the ears to hear and the eyes to see. But those who are invested in keeping the game of separation going, because they're the ones who are profiting the most. And let me tell you what, not everybody who has a lot of money or power is evil, not at all. But the bulk of the people with a lot of power and money, and it's a very small number, that use it for selfish purposes are actually operating in this very evil place. So what do they do when somebody comes in with their bright yellow light to try to pull people out of the circle of separation, out of the illusion of indoctrination about haves and have-nots and pyramid schemes, where one person at the top is the one that runs the show and everybody at the bottom are the minions that are supposed to send everything up to the top? When these bright ones come in to tell us the good news that you don't have to believe the thoughts that you're thinking, you don't have to believe authority outside of you, they work for you. You vote them there. No, God didn't appoint a single authority above us, not one. When those that come in and begin to teach that we are one, those are the ones who get persecuted, get burnt at the stake, get put on the crosses, get shot. You know, Martin Luther King Jr., why did that man get shot? He was only telling us that we're equal. Well, that's not convenient for the people who want to run the world and are operating from a place of low density. So what humanity is going through right now is that so many of us have heard the masters. Why do you think Jesus hasn't incarnated and he keeps teaching us through A Course in Miracles? Because he's thinking you people are crazy. It tells us that in the Course in Miracles. Jesus says you guys are insane. When you believe the ego mind, you are in pure insanity. You're listening to a tiny mad idea, a thought in the mind that tells us that we're separate. When how can we be separate if God created us all one and we're inside of the oneness that God is? So we have to do the work, which has been happening, pulling ourselves out of the illusion, unplugging from the illusion, removing ourselves from the matrix in essence, beginning to separate from this idea of separation, lightening ourselves back more. So many of us are doing that. So right now, planet Earth, and this is where we're the only planet in the universe, from what I'm hearing, what I'm understanding, that is going through what is known as a process of ascension, a process of graduation. Because all of the enlightened beings that are operating in the universe are now focused on supporting any one of us who want to wake up from the density of the dream. And we are being supported into shifting out of the illusion of separation, into shifting into the truth of our oneness. So the whole of the universe is focused on sweet little planet Earth. Why? Because our planet is a consciousness too. It chose to play the game of separation. It chose to become a separate planet. And as a reflection of what we are, all of it pure consciousness, what has happened is that humanity is tired. We're bored with the game of separation. This is not appealing anymore. This is absolutely not fun. Think about the game of hide and seek. Do you all remember, and I want to see by a show of hands, do you remember when you were little and used to play hide and seek outside in the yard and you would go hide behind a tree and you were like so excited somebody was going to come find you? Raise your hand if you remember the excitement of hiding behind the tree. Oh my God, it was so much fun. Well, we've been hiding behind a fucking tree for too long. We're waiting there to be found. It's like the game has gotten boring. It's dark, it's late, and we want to be found. And because the game got boring, the game is no longer for all of us to play. Only a few who have decided, I'm going to keep you there waiting. I'm going to torture you and leave you there all alone. Those who understand that as long as our mind can be conditioned into selfishness are literally doing everything that they can to keep us stuck behind the tree, scared to death, not wanting us to come out from behind the tree and find ourselves. Because the game of hide and seek, the divine hide and seek, requires that we find ourselves for one reason and one reason only. We hid ourselves in this world that we have created. We have projected a world of separation to hide from God, to hide from ourselves. So we cannot come to know I and the Father are one until we are bored with the game of separation and of duality, of haves and have-nots. And you can't be bored with that game until you begin to unplug from the idea of it. But to unplug from the idea of it, you unplug yourself. First, you have to be the change you want to see. Then you have to see others as not having power over you, bring everybody into equality, and recognize, oh my God, they don't know what's going on if they're playing the game. So we have to forgive them, for they know not what they do. With that level of compassion, we literally shift energetically up to a higher frequency. In that higher frequency, we are bringing heaven to earth. So this is the only planet that is going through that shift, which is a graduation. We're graduating from the immature playground, if you want to call it that. We have been immature middle schoolers stuck inside of playing the game of victims and bullies. It's not fun anymore. We are about to graduate as a world. We are about to move. We're about to take the courage. Billions of us are on the verge of having the courage to say, you know what? I'm not going to let you tell me what to do. My voice matters. The fifth chakra is getting activated. Humanity is learning to love itself enough to move through the density of our lower chakras, to question what's going on here, because these are the lower chakras. We got to do the work down here, the I work. We got to clean up our story of ourselves. We got to clean up our emotions. We got to clean up our thoughts. When we clean that up, we have then moved to the fourth chakra, where we begin to love ourselves enough. And when we love ourselves enough and we're standing inside of the light of self-love, then we begin to access the realm of the higher chakras. We begin to speak our truth, but you have to have the courage. And we speak our truth by recognizing you know not what you're doing if you're caught in the illusion. Can't judge people. But the process of activating a I matter, which you see that around the world, countries around the world, our American media doesn't really show that, the mass media. You got to go to alternative media to see. Around the world, people are marching and saying, I don't like what you're doing to us, government. Why? Because there's a sense of sovereignty. There is an I amness that is awakening, that is moving us from all about me and fear to banding together in unity with others to say we collectively deserve better. And when we speak up with each other, united with each other, then guess what? The people who are trying to keep us separate and in control in this world, this illusion will fall apart. So this planet is right now poised for graduation. But you can't graduate if you don't know that it's time to leave middle school. You've got to be ready to give up the childish games that hold us in the frequency of separation, of competition, of fear. I mean, how is it that this entire world has bought into, I shouldn't say the entire world, so many in this world have bought into the illusion that well-being comes to us from the outside when we are the bringers of light. Light is all that isness, all the well-being, all the goodness that we could possibly have, all the power is in the light. So we are forced, when we play this game, power versus force, we are forced to abdicate our sovereignty by making us believe that, you know, I'm just one person. What can one person do? But what one person can do is be the change we want to see. So as we turn on our light and we begin the process of acknowledging, okay, I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim of the world I see. This world is an opportunity to separate from God if I believe this world is real. And that's why we were taught in the Old Testament, you can't have two masters. You either worship money or you worship God, period. You worship love or you worship fear. You worship the ego or you listen to the voice for God. So we are in the process of having to see things get pretty dark and dense and going, what the hell has happened here? Because when you begin to wake up, and even if you're not fully awake, you know goodness is natural. Goodness is natural. Greed is learned. We're not greedy as little children. So we are waking up from that illusion and beginning to see that the only way to change this world and create a new earth is we have to be the change we want to see in the world. And what will happen? We we get to create heaven on earth when we lighten up our thinking and lighten our minds with truth, release the density of fear, of pain, of separation, release, we got to cleanse, we got to clear, we got to let go all of these ideas that start in the mind, because everything starts in mind. Through a decision to experience separation, we have to make the decision to go back into oneness, and that requires that we claim our power. Nobody to blame, which is very difficult to do when you have a lot of emotional baggage. But when you drop the emotional baggage and your mind is clear, you go, wow, I am a powerful creator. Look at what I did. I created this illusion of separation, of dad abandoning me, of people not liking me. Wow. If I'm that creative and I created discomfort, what would happen if I use my creativity and create from comfort? What if I allow the comforter to speak through me? What if I allow beauty and joy and peace to be what I create from? Then we create a new earth. And guess who doesn't like a new earth? Those who have been selling to us the old earth. And for us to shift into the new earth, we must stop worshiping money, worshiping things, worshiping others, and let go of the idols that keep us in separation, chasing something to make us better, and accept the wholeness, the goodness, the amazing power that we have. And we've got to learn to love ourselves enough to speak that power, because creation is a manifestation. We have to speak it. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word says, this is what I desire, which is why until we accept and forgive those, we can't have harmony with the world. We can't step into the place of reason where we understand how meaningful we are. And that means we have a whole universe that is full of meaning that we have to discover. We need to understand the real meaning God gave to everything. And the meaning God gave to everything is that everything is here for one reason and one reason only: to give and receive love. To give and receive. We are here to love and support one another. Isn't it more fun when we co-create with others and we come up with an idea that is beautiful, that shares, that uplifts people? The things of greed and selfishness, that is so 2020. The things of love and unity and expansion, that is the new earth that we have to bring and make manifest now. Why? Because it doesn't happen by itself. We have to create it. We have to rise into that frequency to make it come alive. So let me share what the Course in Miracles has to say about this world. What is the world? This is the world that the ego has made. So I'm going to read. This is inside of the workbook for teachers. And the workbook for teachers is where all the lessons, Course in Miracles lessons, are. And this particular lesson, or this particular segment, is right after lesson 240. And it is called, What is the World? If you happen to have the third edition of A Course in Miracles, it is on page 413 in the workbook. Not the first part of the course, but in the middle of the course is another segment called the workbook for students. What is the world? The world is false perception. It is born of error, and it has not left its source. This is a false perception. We perceived ourselves as separate, but it has not left its source. It's in the mind of God. We are safely held inside of the creative energy that God is, pretending that we're all alone. Yep, that's how we're using our power. We're using the power of oneness to pretend that we're not. That's okay. That's okay, because we're powerful creators creating our own reality. Isn't that cool to know? Nobody can create our reality. And when we shift out of that insanity that somebody else can create our reality, oh my gosh, then we get to know the power of God. So this false world, it will remain no longer than the thought that gave it birth is cherished. Stop cherishing the thought that we're separate and alone, that this world is a world of suffering. Shift that and lift your vibration to the truth. I created this experience. I wanted to feel what it's like to be my own God, to be the ruler of my world. And in being the ruler of my world, I came into a world that I became ruled by other people. And it's okay. It's okay that we as powerful creators entered into that game. So when the thought of separation has been changed to one of true forgiveness, raise your thinking to go above the line of the ego, step out of that thinking that says you're separate and you're egoic, and step into the mind that says, well, if I'm powerful and everybody else is powerful and just forgot about this, let me just forgive them. We all didn't know what we were doing together. We all created the illusion together. So let me read that again. When the thought of separation has been changed to one of true forgiveness, will the world be seen in quite another light, and one which leads to truth, where all the world must disappear and all its errors vanish. Now its source has gone and its effects are gone as well. This world of separation is maintained by our agreement that we're separate from one another. This world of separation is maintained by our agreement that we have authorities, human authorities above us who tell us what to do. More importantly, this world of separation is maintained by our decision, our agreement that God is outside of us and not inside of us. And when the church told us God was outside of us, because see, that bright light that is Jesus that came to tell us the kingdom of heaven is within, and what they do, they kill the poor dude. They killed him because he was telling truth. That was very inconvenient for the liars. And the ones who tell lies do not want the rest of us who've been believing it and became their minions to know the truth, because if we know the truth of who we are, we will leave the cave. If you haven't seen the story of Plato and the cave, I highly recommend that you watch that story, because Plato was giving us a very simple analogy that we're all living inside of a cave. We have blinders on and we only see what we are shown. And if you only believe what you're shown, then you cannot possibly know the truth of who we are. And if we don't know the truth of who we are, every lie we buy into it. We buy into that we need external medicine to make us better. We buy into we need somebody else telling us what we can and cannot do. We buy into somebody else tells us what we should do for a living. Somebody else tells us, what would be the right thing for me to do, what I cannot do based on my color, my gender, my sexual orientation, my religious preference, my culture. The children of God, which is all of us, are free, 100% free, so free that we can put ourselves in bondage by thinking thoughts that are not true. They appear to be true because we agreed to them, but when you pull out of the illusion, when you move into do the work of who am I and stop blaming others, and you move into, oh, I'm one with everybody else, and you recognize oneness, then you move into your God essence, which is the creator of all that is, wanting to create something from love, because the creator, unlike what we've been taught by religion, when they put God out there, they made him a Santa Claus God who decided we were naughty or nice and gave us presents if we were nice and sent us to hell if we were not. When we began to believe that that was true, we began to stop having conversations with God. We stopped connecting with God, because after all, God's not in here, and we would just go to church and pray to God out there and spend an hour with our friends, and then we walk out of there and leave God in the church. But God is in here, always has been in here, just simply denied by a veil of illusion, by a thought that we are not that powerful. But the fastest way to get our power is to see how we disempowered ourselves. Because how else are you going to know how powerful you are until you see how you've been using your power? The Course in Miracles tells us we've been misusing it. Let me read the next paragraph. Paragraph 2, the world was made, this world of duality, not the planet. God created the planet, but the world of duality, what we have done to the planet, on the planet, to one another, the world was made as an attack on God. It symbolizes fear. And what is fear except love's absence? Thus, the world was meant to be a place where God could enter not, and where his son could be apart from him. Here was perception born, the perception of separation. For knowledge could not cause such insane thoughts. This is why to move to the level of reason, where you really move outside of linear thinking, where your mind is no longer operating in the limitation of what we know, and we know that we don't know it all, and create a portal to all knowingness, which is what's happening with me right now. I didn't know all this stuff, or an hour ago. This is just coming through me to share it in the way that I'm sharing it. So when you open up the portal, there's a door. It's an imaginary door in our mind that when we decide to open it and say, God, what would you have me know? When we humble ourselves enough to say, I don't know it all. Maybe I'm wrong about everything that I knew. I got the yard people are here doing isn't that lovely? I get to teach you guys and be here with you, and somebody else gets to do the yard. Let me put my little microphone and minimize the noise. Maybe you don't hear it, but I hear it because they're right out there. I'm so grateful these amazing beings who love doing what they're doing are doing what they're doing. Well, I love doing what I'm doing. And you amazing beings who love enriching your minds and expanding your awareness are doing what you want to be doing. This is a new earth. This is a world where everybody gets to do what they're doing and nobody is forced to have to do something they don't want to do. But we can't have this for all of us until all of us agree we all deserve it. So let me go back to the readings here in the course. So this is a world that symbolizes an attack on God. So what did the church do? You remember those red people that operate in that realm of evil? They told us God was outside of us. Well, attacking God when God is inside. They told us that God is a punishing God, a God that is fickle, that depends on how you're behaving and likes you or doesn't like you. Well, that's to make God in the image of a very evil being who has lost its own connection to God inside. So it projects a separated God outside to scare us. And the reason we're afraid of God is because innately inside of us, we know the truth of our oneness with God. That's why our greatest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. The Course tells us our greatest fear is the fear of facing God and having to say to God, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that you created me full of love, and I withheld that love from humanity. I withheld it from myself. That's our greatest fear, that we have to recognize we used our power to hurt one another. But once we realize that it is a God of love, what is love cannot punish, cannot be mad at us. We're all the prodigal children that are being invited to return to the truth of who we are, only to discover a God that never, ever, ever left us. And when we realize we've had God all along with us, we're going to have to go through a process of adjustment, of recognizing how powerful we've been and we didn't know it. So a lot of humbleness comes into that. A lot of forgiveness, self-forgiveness comes into that. So the world is a place that we leave God out, the human world, the world of time and suffering and making money and getting ahead and tiger moms and glass ceilings and oppressive governments and communism and all of those things. That is a world that leaves God out. What's one of the first things that they do in a communist state? They burn the books. They burn the holy books. Why? They don't want you to know God is inside. They don't want you to know the truth of who you are. What's happening in America? We're cancel culture. What did they just cancel the other day? Dr. Seuss, a couple of Dr. Seuss books. If you start paying attention to what's happening, you begin to see the process of indoctrination. Why? Because we are in the midst of graduation time. And guess what? The crazy, warden that runs this school doesn't want us to graduate and leave because it doesn't want an empty school. But it's time for us to move to the next level. It's time for us to put what no longer serves all of humanity. We need to put it down. So we've got to get our power. We've got to claim our liberation. And that makes us sovereign beings. And what happens? How can you be sovereign? You know that God created you that way. So guess what? The world doesn't want you to discover that you and God are one. that I and God are one. So we've got to create this little group here where we feel safe talking about that. And until we feel grounded enough, like me, to say it and not care what anybody thinks, because I have no fear of death anymore. I know I'm pure energy. I know what I am. So at this point, the crucifixions that come my way, and they have, obviously not with nails, but the comments, the whatever, once what people think about you doesn't matter, what God knows about you becomes your center. It becomes your grounding place, a foundation built on solid rock, and nothing can shake you from there. So what goes on to be said in the Course in Miracles in paragraph 2, sentence 5, is here in this world was perception born, for knowledge could not cause such insane thoughts. If you know the truth, you can't be thinking lies. If you know the truth that we're going to learn in high school, when we graduate to the new earth, you don't believe some of the silly things that were taught to us in the playground. But eyes deceive and ears hear falsely. Now mistakes become quite possible, for certainty has gone. So we got to claim our certainty so that we can pull the veil from our eyes, so we can take the cotton out of our ears, so we can hear the truth. So the mechanism of illusion have been born instead. So we created this false world. We are going to have to do something about it. And now they go to find what has been given them to seek. We have to seek the truth. Their aim is to fulfill the purpose which the world was made to witness and make real. They see in its illusions but a solid base where truth exists, upheld apart from lies. Yet everything that they report is but illusion, which is kept apart from truth. Our eyes have been made to look at the world and say, that is true. Yep, that is true. I need this person. I need that person. I'm not complete until you all give me what I want. In last week's class, this was the Happy Dream Creators third class. It's on my YouTube channel. You can find it there. We talked about attachments. We talked about all the things that we have been chasing to make us feel like we're somebody. Let's see, Fiona, as I wake up and see what the 1% does, I get so angry and it keeps me stuck. Any way out of this? How do I transmute this? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because you participated in that. You agreed with that for a long time. We kept sending our money to the 1%. We kept doing what the 1% was advertising us to do. So when we say, oh, wow, I participated in that game, it transmutes through the honesty that I kept the game going because I didn't know what I was doing. I was under the illusion. So now we become conscious beings who say, hey, you have no more power than I do. And for that reason, I'm not going to hold you as powerful over me. And the anger begins to dissipate when it is not projected out anger at them, but it is used inside to say, you know what? I need to be angry at me for playing the game. And then why be angry when I chose to play it to begin with? So there's a process that we have to go through, but we have to be gentle. Sometimes it can take a while to release that energy. So we have to be gentle with ourselves and be kind as we go through this process. And the Course goes on to tell us that as sight was made to lead away from truth, it can be redirected. As we begin to focus in seeing what was in front of us and call it true, we can begin to say, I want to see differently. Father, Mother, God, Source, Spirit, I want to see this differently. There's got to be another way. Sounds become the call for God, and all perception can be given a new purpose by the one whom God appointed Savior to the world. Follow his light and see the world as he beholds it. Hear his voice alone in all that speaks to you, and let him give you peace and certainty, which you have thrown away, but heaven has preserved for you in him. So we have a voice that speaks to us of something else. That's our intuition. That is the voice of what the Course calls the Holy Spirit. The truth is inside of us, talking to us, telling us, hey, come on, come back home. Come on, there's another way. If we make a decision to follow those who have been teaching us for a long time, follow the teachings of Lao Tzu, follow the teachings of Jesus. Buddha came to teach this. Eckhart Tolle teaches this. I teach this. It helps. All of those who teach are helping to awaken the inner teacher in all of us. So We all have our own inner guru. And we have to be humble enough to learn from others how to access our own inner teacher. Because when you come inside to your own inner teacher, who's your teacher? God in you is speaking to you, but we can't hear God if we are not in stillness. The mind has to get quiet. You can't hear God in the muck. We've got to come up and into the higher frequencies, which is why it's so wonderful when we do sound journeys or meditation or walks in nature, because the mind gets quiet when we are in an environment that allows for stillness. And then we hear the voice for God, that inner teacher that will lead us out of the insanity. So let us not rest content until the world has joined our changed perception. This is why right now, those of us who are waking up, and this is a call for those of you who are spiritual. The ego gets spiritualized. We create an egoic pride that makes us want to become rich and famous by teaching spirituality. I know I've had my time in that space, but we cannot be content with wanting to serve ourselves. We will not be content until all brothers and sisters are liberated, because when you know you're one with all that is, you cannot leave anyone behind. None can be left behind, because it's like leaving an aspect of yourself behind. So this world that the ego created gets discreated when we stand up and speak truth. When we are not willing to cower, when we are saying, I do not consent to things that you know are not of you. When you know you have God inside of you and you have a power mightier than yourself, mightier than a sword, mightier than a gun, you stand firm in your knowingness, because by then you should have no fear of death. Now you're not distracted with fears, with attachments, and you're grounded solidly in the knowingness that he who goes with you, she, Mother God, who goes with us is mighty, and it's using all of us to create an opening to move humanity out of the small idea of this world. We are being pushed out of living in such a small idea of self. We are being pushed to expand the possibilities that are available to us, where there is no lack, where there's no limitation, where there's no indoctrination. So let us not rest content until the world has joined our changed perception. Let us not be satisfied until forgiveness has been made complete. As more revelations of those who have been doing evil deeds show in our awareness, come up for us to see, we do not free ourselves until we forgive others. Some in the world will go on to punish, some in the world will want to take revenge. Those who do so are in this level of consciousness. That's okay. That's where they are. That's what they'll do. But those of us who have moved to forgiveness, we need to understand that we're all playing a role so that we could all have the experience that we had. We are just tired of that game. We want to play a different game. So let us not be satisfied until forgiveness has been made complete. And let us not attempt to change our function. Our function is to be the light of the world. You can't forgive if you darken yourself and go into blame and judgment. They're two separate frequencies. And if you attempt to do that, you're going to go crazy, because you can't be loving for 30 seconds and hateful for 30 seconds. We do that when we're expanding, but you can't do that once you have landed in the truth of who you are. And it goes on to say, we must save the world. For we who made it must behold it through the eyes of Christ, that what was made to die can be restored to everlasting life. We have to look at what's happening and say, this is not okay. This is not okay. This is a lie that people can hurt others. This is a lie that anybody has more power than another. This is a lie that we have to bow down to some authority out there. This is a lie that we're separate from one another. We have to say, this is not okay. I do not consent to giving my power away, because God gave me my power. And in my power, I recognize yours. And just because you're using your power to try to disempower me, I'm not playing that game. And I am not participating in the illusion of separation anymore. And because you're my brother and we are one, or you're my sister and we are one, I forgive your insanity, because clearly you must not know what you're doing if you're attempting to hurt me. And when we can stand inside of that, with clarity, with certainty, with determination, oh my gosh, God is with us. What can possibly happen to one who stands firmly on using there's a quote in the Course in Miracles, and I know where it is. Well, you know what? I'm going to go there right now because I want to read this to you. It's inside of the Manual for Teachers, and it is at the beginning of the section for trust. But let me read this one thing. And this is in the segment of trust, the first section that speaks of trust under what are the characteristics of a teacher of God. And this is what it says. When you understand what God is and the power of God that you have in you, it says, when this power has once been experienced, it is impossible to trust one's own petty strength again. Who would attempt to fly with the tiny wings of a sparrow when the mighty power of an eagle has been given him? And who would place his faith in the shabby offerings of the eagle, human law, when the gifts of God are laid before him? What is it that induces them to make the shift? Well, the only way you're going to shift to fly with the mighty powers of an eagle is to love yourself enough to know that you're worth it. When you decide that your voice matters, then you will have chosen to shift and lift, to shift from low density and to lift into the high frequency. This is not an easy journey, but it is a simple journey. It is a journey of choosing again, moment by moment by moment, to trust the power inside of you that is waking up, to trust that you are good, to trust that you are holy, to begin to trust that you matter so much to God, that God created each and every one of us as an opportunity to experience what love and joy and peace and collaboration and co-creation is all about. Just because we got sucked into the story of separation doesn't mean we're separate. We've just been playing that game for thousands of years, and now it's time to stop that. Now it's time to say, like that old saying says, homie, don't play that, and stop playing a game that is no longer satisfying to any of us. It's only satisfying to the ones who are in the low density, but those are in the minority because there are very, very few that are that deep in disconnection. And if we decide to not believe what they're telling us, that would scare the crap out of them, because if they saw millions of people, as is happening around the world, as is happening in India, millions of farmers saying no to the system that they're wanting to enforce there. Well, when you got millions of people marching and saying no, guess what happens? Those people who think that they have control, oh, I love the lawnmowers, the sound of the lawnmowers. When you have millions of people saying no, you cannot tell me what to do. Guess what? The few that are attempting to tell us what to do will back off, but they won't back off as long as we have millions of scared people. So when we unite in our power, when we unite in our knowingness that we deserve to have what God created us to have, a free world, well, then what can stop us? If we use the mighty power of an eagle instead of flying around thinking we're little sparrows. So let me stop there, put myself on mute, and I want you guys to ask any questions, make any comments, and let's chat about this wonderful news that is in the Course in Miracles for us today.
Laina, I just wanted to share in reading this morning, and again, this is so simple but not easy, but the process of forgiveness is I'm forgiving the projection of my own self-concept of guilt onto others, right? I mean, I just got that. I mean, I knew that before, but I got it at a deeper level of, oh my God. And anyway, there was just this deeper understanding of that truth. So again, thank you so much.
Absolutely, because what we all carry, the deepest guilt that we carry is that when we begin to wake up, we know we created this. So we made up this world, and we've been blaming other people and saying, you did this to me. So we feel guilty when we realize, oh, I do know I ate the cookie, and I've been lying and blame my little sister about it, or my little brother. So we feel guilty that we've done this to ourselves. Yes, thank you. But there's nothing to be guilty about because God's not upset with any of us. So thank you for that, Lorelai. Yes, Laina.
it was interesting last night after class. It was late. I couldn't sleep very well, and it was, I don't know what time it was, but I kind of went into meditation to forgive myself. And it was strange that I felt resistance there. It's interesting that I thought, I've been able to forgive others going through this forgiveness phase that I'm going through now. But it was so interesting that I felt resistance on forgiveness for myself in a situation of this previous relationship with Ray that passed away. And I was forgiving myself for not feeling that love and being loving. And anyway, it was just interesting to feel that resistance. I'm like, why am I resisting forgiving myself? Why is that?
Well, it's very simple. And obviously in that class, we go over, lots of detailed things about our ego that we don't have time to really do here. But the reason we resist forgiving ourselves is because the one that resists is our egoic identity. So inside of us, we have the voice that says, no, we're not going to forgive ourselves. We're going to stay guilty. So we have the part of us that wants us to suffer in guilt and shame. And then there's the desire to forgive. So you have to override the voice in your head that is attempting to be the authority that says, you can't forgive yourself. Because if you don't say, I deserve to forgive myself, I deserve to be free, you are not overriding the voice that keeps us in bondage. And that is an act of self-love. I love myself too much to listen to this crap that I can't forgive myself.
So is it normal now to have these voices in my head?
Yeah.
You got the egoic mind, and then the new voice coming through strongly going, whoa, wait a minute.
Well, you've always had those voices. You weren't present to the voices. You weren't aware that you were run by a committee of lunatics. But now you do.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that it's allowing, it's not even given permission. I have heard the other voice and have the sense of knowing that it's been such a confusing thing for me. So now allowing that voice to come through strongly, the voice of God, the voice of me. So it does feel good. So it's giving that like, okay, this feels right. But it's still breaking down the conditioning of that egoic mind.
Exactly. That's you basically overriding the voice that is keeping you separate and owning the voice that keeps you in unity with God. And the voice for God speaks of love and kindness and gentleness and compassion. And it's not a doormat, because you have to have the courage to stand up to the other voice. But it is a voice that says, I am willing to suffer no more.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea, for that comment. That's beautiful. Yes, all of this stuff is so beautiful. Yes, it is absolutely, love that we need to allow the love that has been suppressed to be expressed. And it starts with expressing it towards ourselves first, then others, then God. Who else would like to share?
Laina, this is Elaine.
No.
Okay. So I guess we can't just wait on Trump.
Oh, sister, that's funny. No, we can't. We can't wait on anyone.
Yeah.
We are it.
So we're the grassroots. We must be the grassroots. And you were saying that we have to stand up and say no to Monsanto. And we have something to do. And so we have to be aware, I guess, more and more of what we, I need to pay attention to where I put my money and where I don't put my money, and my voice. It's not just my voice, it's what I say and what I do. And Laina, I just want to say that, man, I really felt like you tied this up and put a bow on it today.
I couldn't wait to hear what was coming through me, because I'm like, oh my God, yes,
seriously, I've been making notes and as you were talking, and so I just think that everything you said, powerful, and needed to hear all of it again, some of it and some of it new. But I thought that the context that you brought it in was very easy to follow and very complete. And I just want to say I really enjoyed it. And I love having communities where two or more are gathered, and we're gaining, something's happening here. It's we're stopping that old train and starting a new train. So glad to
Yes.
be here today.
I'm so glad that you're here. And, it really is amazing. But when we tie all this together, one of the things that came for me today with real clarity that I've known, like you, known this, heard this, but that just solidified to me is that as long as we sit in the world complaining about what we don't like, and we become light chasers who don't face our own darkness, because that's one of the things that happens to us in the spiritual community is we get all spiritualized. And like Debbie Ford wrote in her book, we become the light chasers, but we have a dark side to us. That's why the title of the book is The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. We don't like to see, when we want to get all spiritualized, we want to go, we do this, we want to go all the way up here, and we want to bypass acknowledging that we created the world we see. We've done our inner work, so I'm good. Well, guess what? The world that we see out there is a projection from inside of us. If we don't acknowledge that we gave power out there and we're looking for a savior out there in any president, in any, pope, in any head of scientific research or whatever, if we give our power out there, we are not grounded solidly in the power of God in here. And that is how we get manipulated, is when we believe that there's a power out there, that power out there uses us to blame each other, to divide us. And that is one of the things that we have to come together on and decide we must stand for all the brothers and sisters in equality. And when we are divided and we take sides for just the Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter or White Lives Matter, and we are shunned when we say all lives matter, when it's all about the trans lives matter or the straight lives matter or the gay lives matter, if we allow for those divisions, we don't stand for that all lives matter. And nothing makes the ego happier than we take sides with one group, because that does two things. It creates a sense of those poor people, those victims that have been ostracized. We need to give them power. Well, we maintain the bully victim game going on, because now there's a victim that has to be saved by this bully that's going to ram this salvation for that side. And if you don't agree with them, then you don't care about people. We need to move out of the participation in anything that creates any kind of separation. None. We should not allow a single, if we already have the one law that we all need. All men are created equal, created with the same inalienable rights by the same one creator for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why don't we enforce that law? Now, all Black lives, all blue lives, all white lives, all brown lives, all trans people, all white people, all, straight men, women, everything is covered under that one. It's already written. So why are we writing other laws to protect people? Because the ego is attempting to make things convoluted, separate us and divide us. And it is creating this insanity that if we buy into it, we're just delaying our own graduation. And so let's see. Oh, Lorelai, you wrote, yeah, we have to bring it. So we have to be the change we want to see in the world. And until we are willing to stand up for all of us as being deserving of the same thing, we are being manipulated to stand up for only one of us. And or two of us or three of us, that's not all of us. So thank you for that share.
Laina, just the fact that we all have to get on the ship or the ark or whatever. That's such an amazing notion to go. It's not about who's behind and who's forward. It's like we're all going. I mean, or nobody goes.
Exactly, because that goes back to the first God created one son. Course in Miracles wants us to know there's only one oversoul. There is only one of us having the experience of being the child of God that has expressed itself in infinite ways. So every brother and sister is the same oversoul expressing itself as infinite souls. And if we don't begin to value all life, and make sure all life has liberty, none of us is going to be happy. It's not possible, because happiness comes from peace, that comes from acceptance, from being okay to be me. So if we want anybody to be free, to be loved, regardless of their color, their gender, their culture, sexual orientation, or political party, we've got to say no to all of this divisiveness. So, who else? Juicy conversation.
Can I just share one more thing now that
Please.
just, and I put it in there, but what struck me so much last night, that when we were talking about, again, grieving people who have left the planet, and you said we're grieving the love that we didn't express, it, like, that just resonated for me again at such a deep level. So again, I'm just so grateful. And I just wanted to share that again, that it's the love we didn't bring because of, we protect all the things that you said today.
Yeah. See, and again, we can unpack so many more details in our individual classes, but when we really understand that our greatest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure, and we are all going to go through a grieving process of not having used that power, that love, not having used it and extended it and lived in it, that we literally blocked love and used our power to create misery and suffering. Because whenever there is a child that goes hungry in this planet, anywhere, doesn't matter where they are, we go hungry. The oneness goes hungry. The oneness is experiencing hunger, and that is not okay. I want to read to you to kind of tie this together with a lesson from the Course in Miracles. This is lesson 244 to bring us to the other side of realizing this world is an illusion, because we are using this planet to create a lot of suffering and separate from God, which we can't do, because God's already inside of us. We're just separating ourselves from the awareness that God's inside of us. But lesson 244, which is right after what we just read about the world. So I'm going to read the statement first, which is paragraph 2. I am in danger nowhere in the world is the title. Paragraph 2, and there we are in truth. There's no danger here. No storms can come into the hallowed haven of our home. In God, we are secure. For what can come to threaten God himself or make afraid what will forever be a part of him? We have been conditioned to believe that we are apart from God, as in A-P-A-R-T, but we are a part of God. We are inside of the mind of God. We cannot be outside of that which is infinite. If God was, for God to be finite, we would be apart from God, on the outside of God. But we are a part inside of God, because we are the children, the essence, the energy of God, seeking to express individuality, uniqueness. Here's the prayer. This is us praying to God, to Father, Mother, God, whatever you want to call it. Your son is safe wherever he may be, for you are there with him. He need but call upon your name, and he will recollect his safety and your love, for they are one. How can he fear or doubt or fail to know he cannot suffer, be endangered, or experience unhappiness when he belongs to you? Beloved and loving in the safety of your fatherly embrace. So let me read this to you in another way. I am safe wherever I may be, for I am here with you, God. I need but call upon your name, and I will recollect my safety and your love, because they are one. How can I fear or doubt or fail to know that I cannot suffer, be endangered, or experience unhappiness when I belong to you? I am beloved and loved in the safety of your loving embrace. I need to grab my battery is running low, so unmute yourself and please share something while I get some more juice going here. It won't take long at all. So we've been bamboozled into believing we are not connected to God. And all we need to do is shift our perception, go from separation into oneness. This is not an easy process, but it is very simple. You keep choosing again, choose again, choose again. The biggest trickster here is the sense of I know it all. If you can put that I know it all mind in its place and acknowledge, how can you know it all? There is a lot to be known. We know maybe that much, and we defend that we know it all when all we know is what's in our head. And what's in our head is, listen, all of us, most of us have computers, and we know we can go search the web. There's a lot that we don't know. If we knew it all, we wouldn't have to go search the web. We wouldn't need to go on the internet and, Google anything. So clearly we know that we don't know it all. This journey requires a humbling. It is so necessary. And that is one of the first ways we begin to break down the egoic delusion that we know everything and we got to figure everything out with what's in our head. We got to figure everything out with what's in our heart. And the heart opens up when the head is not in fear. When the head is not in fear, we unblock ourselves for the awareness of the presence of love that wants to flow through us. That's why we have a mental body, an emotional body, and we've got to work through that. And unpacking that takes time. And there's a lot of wonderful information written out there, so many beautiful teachers, but no teacher can take you beyond where they are. So know when you have completed your work with a teacher, including me, and if you already know what I'm sharing and it's easy for you, and this feels totally completely like, oh, I can teach that, then you're beyond me. I can't help you go beyond where I am. But we also have a lot of favorite teachers and favorite processes that our ego keeps us loyal to so that we don't stretch and expand. I know I had to come to terms with a teacher that I was very loyal to. And I literally cried when I said, but I leave the classes, I leave those experiences not feeling stretched, but I love how I feel with all these people in this wonderful place. And it wasn't until I said, okay, I'm going to listen to that voice that says move on. And then I found my next teaching, which was the Course in Miracles. And then I began to search teachers online, and I began to really, it was like blowing my mind. But that one teacher helped me to get where I was ready for what came next. And I strongly, strongly encourage you, take what resonates here, leave what doesn't, but do not settle for limitations. Don't get comfortable in your awareness, because until you are fearless, no fear of death, no fear of what other people think about you, no fear in terms of anything bad happening, and you are committed to fearlessly speaking your voice, and do it gently, because we're talking to brothers and sisters, and do it defenselessly, because you don't need to defend the truth. The truth stands on its own. You're not free. So keep on expanding your mind. Keep on opening your heart, because that's what we need to do. We need to be the change we want to see in the world. And the world desperately right now, more than anything, needs people who are willing to be sovereign and do not consent to anything having authority over us except for God. We must let God be the master. And we need to understand what God is. And God is nothing but love, creativity, freedom. That's why we cannot achieve the place of enlightenment and pure consciousness and perfect bliss until we understand what creates that. And that's what God is, source is, whatever you want to call it is. To have that, we cannot have anything that opposes that. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. That's all that's flowing. I can feel that it's like, okay, yeah, nothing else to say. I am complete with my share. So, oh, Lisa, this session been amazing. Oh, how sweet. Have to run, but you'll listen again. Yes, all of these are posted in my YouTube channel. By the way, if you enjoy this, please leave comments on my YouTube channel because that helps the algorithms lift up the posts when people search. In my YouTube channel, you can make a donation if you so feel like it. You don't have to, but the work that I teach is based on helping people remember the truth of who they are. That's why I'm doing so many things. I'm putting lots of stuff on my YouTube. Share it if you feel like you want to help spread the word. You don't have to, but if your heart, you feel so inclined to share it, by all means. All I want to do is spread truth. That's it. No other need. I need nothing else. So let's unmute everybody. Why don't you guys unmute yourselves and let's just please share whatever your thoughts are about today and let's complete our gathering.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Just
Good.
perfect.
Ready for flight.
Yes. Take off.
All right, take off. Here we go.
Oh, so wonderful. Thank you all for being here.
Thank
Thank you so
Daisy,
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Totally.
Thank
It
you,
was
Lana.
brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Being here.
Have a magnificent day. Oh, Patrice, there you are, Debbie. Woohoo. See you all later then.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Lana.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.